the project was called the Choreography of the Handover, and it was funded by the King's Cultural Institute. And these projects in arts and health are designed to foster collaborations between academics and artists. So yes, it's a very, very exciting initiative. So healthcare is, of course, a highly emotionally charged area of practice, but it's also a highly physical activity, as well as being a cognitive and an intellectual one. And one area that we were really interested in looking at was particularly the physicality of practice, the embodied nature of practice for nurses working in chemotherapy. And what we were funded and supported to do was to actually go and work with and observe nurses in cancer chemotherapy units, to observe their movement patterns and the nature of their mobilities, because these are multiple in nature, and actually see how they moved around the space in which they were actually working, how they interacted with each other, how they interacted with all of the equipment, the tech, and especially the IT platforms that they were working with. And so, I mean, these nurses are on their feet from the beginning of the shift till the end. It is highly demanding physical work. And so we observed these movement patterns and actually recorded them. We were originally hoping to film them, but unfortunately that was very difficult to find a single vantage point that we could do. So we just observed them, and we were working with a dancer. And of course, it was very interesting seeing the different perceptions, what two people who weren't trained in choreography and dance observed, two clinicians, compared with an artist and the dancer. And so, cut a long story short, what we managed to do was to actually essentially quaff the different movements, some of which were repetitive and routine, as well as how the floor show, if you like, of practice was actually expressed by the nurses and the practitioners. It was just extraordinary the way they sort of moved in and out, the kind of routine practices, the repetitive nature, opening packets, putting on aprons, interacting with the computers, etc., and twiddling of IVs and talking with relatives and patients, and you know how they were basically using their bodies. So we tracked some of those movements and crafted those movements into a performance, which hopefully you will be able to be cited on the platform. There was a day in the life of the chemotherapy nurses, because it occurred to us that these nurses are on their feet for 12 hours. They come into practice, and of course this would go for nurses in all settings, and they're just like, go, you know, it's just like you get some kind, you have a huddle, some briefing about the day, and then it's just, you know, go girls, go boys. And there are huddles throughout the rest of the day for checking in on various kinds of issues. But really, you know, you're more or less on your feet all the time. So what we were thinking of was trying to get their feedback from the performance and help them build some kind of sense of well-being by doing stretching. Our next phase is to help do stretching so they can ease into the day, and there could be a kind of bracketing of their experience in how they enter the day of practice, and then at the end of the day, how they sort of gain some kind of closure and stretch down again. So we're recycling some of their bodily movements in creating that kind of, those exercises, those stretches, so that they are owning their own, if you like, movements, but using them hopefully in a more therapeutic kind of way. But just, I mean, I think it's been fascinating seeing how they respond to our observations and how much they sort of recognize, you know, how it's the aesthetics of their movement. It's quite astonishing how they never bump into each other. and how elegant they are in these movements. So there is a kind of choreography element to this. So it's been rather thrilling doing this project, and we're certainly hoping to expand and explore this and do some further work in this area.